What's up, guys? Jets fall to the Dolphins, go to 0-4. I did a post-game stream last night, but it turns out my Wi-Fi was like as bad as the Jets, so scrapped that one off the interwebs. The stream was all jacked up, so my apologies for that. But a shorter recap here. Now, I do want to just give credit to Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams, Armand Membou, Olu Fashanu, and Breece Hall, who I thought had really good games. Fashanu, big bounce back game, had some trouble with pressures. Membou has that one glitch every game where he doesn't get the snap count right, and then he's money after that. Armand Membou had the highest PFF run block grade of any offensive lineman this week. He still hasn't committed a penalty through 4 weeks. Armand Membou is the real deal. And Mason Taylor, it looks like the Jets, the whole discourse was weapon and offensive line with the first two picks. How do you get the most out of those two investments? And the Jets took two 21-year-olds who look like they can play. And obviously Mason Taylor isn't as good as Tyler Warren or as T-Mac down in Carolina, but the day two tackles that we were talking about are like inactive in Chicago or getting CJ Stroud killed in Houston. So the combination there looks pretty good. The Jets just really needed Arian Smith to be able to play a role this year. That's what it came down to after going O-line in round one. And I'm talking like 2 catches a game, 1 explosive play a month from Smith, and he just hasn't really been even targeted. So that's kind of a bummer. But a shout out to those guys. I mean, Garrett Wilson's a superstar. He's leveled up this year, and his teammates and coaching staff have not joined him, so that's sad, but shout out to those guys, man. Now, you look at this offense, and it's honestly, I'm going to get into some coaching here. It's hard to kill Tanner Engstrand a ton because you look at their first possession, all right? They go jumbo package. You're like, why is Max Mitchell on my TV? Well, it's working. Max Mitchell, Andrew Beck. They get 6-7 yards a pop, boom, right down the field. Miami is a team that is ready to be put out to pasture. They're like, please, old Yeller us. Please, let us lay down and die so we can fire this coach and get it over with. And you have a fumble at the goal line. And it's like, come on, man. It's not even third or fourth down where you have to try and take that risk to try and punch it in. Completely unnecessary. And at that moment, you feel like you almost feel like the game is over. And it's not. It's not even close to being over, but it kind of feels that way. Okay, then Miami drives 1,000,000 yards down the field, methodical. And then by the time the Jets get their second possession, there's like 9 minutes left in the second quarter. They get a first down. They get to midfield. They go for it on fourth down. Garrett Wilson falls down. Justin Fields doesn't at least try and throw the ball somewhere to give somebody a chance for it. Takes a strip sack, which it would have been a turnover on downs anyway, but obviously the strip sack costs you like 20 yards of field position, and it could have been a scoop and score, so you don't want to fumble the ball there. And then by the time you get the ball back again, the half is almost over. And the Jets are playing for a field goal. Now, I know Mike Tomlin has said in terms of, is the offensive coordinator playing for the field goal or is the head coach? Mike Tomlin says he gives his OCs green light, yellow light, red light. Either green light, try to go for a touchdown, be aggressive. Yellow light, kind of in between. You want to make sure you have the ball last and work for a field goal. And then red light is like you're taking a knee and getting to halftime. And it was pretty clear that Tanner Engstrand got a yellow light, where maybe it should have been green. I'll say this, with Justin Fields, ironically, when it's a 2-minute offense and the other team is rushing 4, and it's not a jailbreak blitz and he just has to drop back and pass, he's been okay. And the offensive line can hang in there and protect. Obviously, the passing weapons aren't great, but it's like you got Justin Fields is his second game where he has over 70% completions out of 3. It's his second game over 8 yards per attempt. It's his second game with multiple touchdowns and no picks. It's his second game out of 3 with over 250 yards combined. I mean, that's kind of like 2 of those 3 games are above what my expectations were heading into the year for Fields. And then, okay, you go with yellow light. You end the half with a timeout in your pocket. That's just bad clock management. You can't end the half with a timeout in your pocket. You should have taken a timeout around 1 minute. but you get bailed out with like a 60-yard field goal by Nick Folk. Okay, nice. Then you're down 10-3, and you're getting the ball. You actually feel like you have a shot. Then the ensuing kickoff is fumbled. And then by the time you get the ball back, there's like 12 minutes left in the third quarter. So you've had 4 possessions so far. 3 of them ended in fumbles. How is that anything to do with play calling? Then you get the remaining 27 minutes of the game, the Jets offense scores 18 points, with 4 points being taken off the board by an egregious offensive pass interference call on Garrett Wilson. It's a great throw by Fields, a great catch by Wilson. Twice those two hook up down the right sideline. Great throw, great catch. One of them's taken away. Now, where I will criticize Engstrand is you got to try and mix in some pass a little bit earlier, because it's so hard to play rugby for 2 quarters and then switch into like a 2-minute offense the rest of the way. I think you have to find some middle ground there, some balance there. But the opening script worked. He had a touchdown drive called up, and Braylon Allen fumbles the ball. Another thing on Engstrand is the team can't line up right. Now, I know it's always the chicken or the egg with the coaches or the players with penalties, but dude, it's your unit and they can't line up right. That does ultimately you're culpable for your unit and their discipline. But play calling wise, he drew up points to be had. Given the pass catching that they're working with, like, he drew up points to be had. Now, let's talk about this defense, man. Let's talk about this defense, because this defense has been worse. His defense has been worse, man. It truly has. I know. I mean, someone told me on Twitter this morning, it's like nothing matters if you don't have a QB. Like, we have to get a QB before we can judge anything. And look, it's been 4 games, man. It's a small sample size. So we'll see. Hopefully the team can improve and get better, for sure. You still feel like they're like 2 fumbles away from being 2-2 somehow, right? Am I crazy? I feel like they're like just don't fumble and you're a 500 team. But QB, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. Is Fields the answer? All right, let's say no. That's probably most likely no, right? Just based on his career sample size. Okay, fine. But you're going to throw Drew Aller or Lenoris Sellers onto this team and you think it's just good to go? I think you're out of your mind. Because defensively, look, now let's, again, you want to try and balance talking about the personnel and the coaching, and let's be honest about the defensive personnel. There's massive limitations. They don't have a playable nickel corner. That's why they traded for this kid Brownlee, and he'll be in there as soon as he is available, because the combination of Isaiah Oliver, Michael Carter II, and Tony Adams, those 3 in the secondary, are just horrendous. Really horrendous. Tony Adams has a 21% missed tackle rate. That's crazy. Downright bad. And again, at edge and at linebacker, you don't have a ton of options with JJ hurt and the GM not really adding anybody. But, dude, Michael Clemens is playing more snaps than Will McDonald. I know it's because they're down and because of the pass. Will McDonald had 2 tackles for loss in this game. How many did Clemens have? Will McDonald, he has to play more than Clemens. Look, I get it. The rest of it, McGregor, Barron, you have no options, you have no bodies, but McDonald has to be on the field more than Clemens. We're not splitting the atom here. Likewise, Leonard Taylor, this Jets defense they've had 2 sacks since week 1. Leonard Taylor is inactive for Jay Tufele, who's returned from his illness to commit a penalty. That's how I was reminded that Jay Tufele was active. He commits a penalty. Remember our introduction to Jay Tufele in the preseason? First play of the preseason, Jay Tufele offsides. Oh, there he is. Forgot we signed him. Oh, there he is. He's back. Penalty. When Leonard Taylor had a couple pressures on limited snaps the week before. And we have to watch Jay Tufele play? Why? Malachi Moore and A.Z. Thomas combined for 2 snaps. With Isaiah Oliver, Tony Adams, and Michael Carter committing war crimes. So, you're very limited at linebacker and edge, but I think, man, Tony Adams playing almost 100% of the snaps just seems crazy at this point. And the linebackers bite on play action every single time, so you get those easy play actions and you run those crossers, and it's just free yards. The Jets defense is really, it's worse than like the points and the yards they allow, because teams don't even try to explosive passes or anything on them, because you could just do a boot and you can flick it for 8 yards and you can hand it off and you can get 5 yards. The Jets defense are bottom 3 in DVOA. They're bottom 3 in EPA. They're last in sacks. They're last in takeaways. They have the third lowest percentage. They have the third highest percentage of drives that result in a score. They have the second lowest percentage of 3 and outs. They have the third worst missed tackle percentage. So right now, this defense, they don't have the dudes to be a top 10 defense. They just don't. They might not have the dudes with Quincy and JJ out to be an average defense. You shouldn't be bottom 3 in all those categories when you hired a head coach and defensive coordinator who have 7 years combined of defensive coordinating and some veteran assistants like Chris Harris in the secondary, and you invested $125 million in guarantees and 3 draft picks to back 7 defenders, and somebody is open on every play. That was one area of the team. You can't fix everything in one offseason, but that was one area of the team, with the investments they made and with the experience on the defensive side of the ball of the coaching staff, where immediate competency was to be expected, and they've gotten anything but. Sauce Gardner has not lived up to his contract so far. His first 2 seasons, he was obviously money, but going back to last year, he's just been very inconsistent. It was a penalty. His pass interference call, there was a lot of horrendous calls, like Jeremy Rucker getting clubbed in the back of the head. Just way after the play, Jeremy Rucker just gets 5-star frog splash in the back of the head. No call. What? Justin Fields suplex out of bounds. No call. Okay. But dude, Sauce, you grabbed Jalen Waddle with 2 hands. That's a DPI. It was a great play by Darren Waller. It wasn't bad coverage, but dude, you got to not allow a touchdown to a retired tight end. I'm sorry, you have to figure out a way. So, and you look at teams like the Jaguars, who went from 27th in scoring last year and 22nd in takeaways last year. This year so far, they're 7th in scoring and 2nd in takeaways. They don't have a single rookie that's starting on defense. This wasn't their draft class. They don't have anybody playing Travis Hunter's playing mostly receiver, and it's just the rookies that they drafted defensively are playing special teams. They had a modest free agency defensively. Why did they make this massive defensive jump? Coaching. And Steve Wilks, it's early for Glenn, it's early for Engstrand, it's early for Muji, but it's just not early for Steve Wilks. This is his 9th team. He was out of the league last year, and likely when he is eventually canned by the Jets, he'll be out of the league probably permanently. So, and look, again, I make the point with the personnel, that won't solve everything. The Jets are not going to fire Steve Wilks and become a top 10 defense, but the defensive coaching has been inexcusable so far through 4 games, and the bar was pretty low coming into the year, man. You see comments, and some people are like those perpetual optimists who are like, maybe we can win 10 games, make the playoffs. There was definitely people who were like, this is a 3-win team, this is a tank, and so far those people definitely look like the most correct. I was in the middle, which I guess now is aging to be overly optimistic, but a scrappy 7-win team that you're starting to clean some things up, and you're kind of optimistic about the future with the coaching staff, right? And I'm not saying that is now impossible after 4 games. You're old enough to see a lot of seasons turn on a dime. I remember the Jets being, 7-3, and then they didn't win another game, right, in 2022. So we'll see what happens, man. Maybe a season like that is still on the table, but I feel a lot less optimistic about it after that one against the Dolphins. And you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, who have a really good offense, and the Broncos, who have a really good coach. So I don't know. They might be 0. They might go 0-6. They might start 0-6, which would be a bummer. But they can't line up right. They can't find a kick returner out of 8 billion humans on Earth who could not fumble. So it's like you're just hoping for some signs of pending competency, which I think is a pretty low bar, a pretty modest bar. Haven't quite gotten there yet, but hopefully they could they could start to put that together soon, hopefully. And go Jets.